collide with what's beside them, and thereby setting off a reaction so that the same exact actor, just keeps it going. And then for variety, I created these things called old bombs, and these old bombs have a counter on them, and they have to have the counter reach 2, so they have to be exploded twice. Otherwise, they have to be cracked before blown up. Everything so these are the 4 objects. The camera just has to follow the scene, so it goes to wherever the most recent blast is. And then bomb, its rules are just look like you're a bomb, and then if you're touched by the mouse or the blast actor, then you turn into a blast actor, which means you create a blast and then you destroy yourself. So if I change the color of the blast to green, just to show you, and I push the game, then when I start the game, you'll see that once I start, they change to a different actor. So it's just an illusion that they're the same. A little bit of magic. Here's a sweet game a little girl made called Dinner and Dessert. We've got a meatball running around against lipsticks trying to catch tomatoes. And the next level is ice cream cone running around trying to avoid the Brussels. But this game in particular shows off an interesting side effect of the physics engine, is that shapes, if they have a high enough friction, then their rotation can cause them to roll along the surface of the game. I'll show you another example of that more precisely in a bit. So you can also make drawing engines. Each one of these little lines is actually a different actor. And then there's this other rule I made for fun that just says, like, once you release your drawing, then there's a wrecking ball that's loose on the scene. So you can write something on purpose, and then as soon as you let go, that stuff is just shattered. But it's kind of like the precursor for a lot of strategy games. You're just drawing the game. You're drawing your troops or your buildings or whatever. So you can make stamp tools, or this is the same one again. I think this one's a little more refined so that they're smaller chips. So this particular one's an example of algorithmic design of ecosystems. I like this one a lot because it's dynamic. As long as that last line doesn't get killed, we'll see what happens. Oh, it got killed. I'll have to reset. The ecosystem needs lions, deer, and grass to survive. And once they get to kind of like a critical mass, then it sustains itself and starts getting kind of descriptive. Down to 3 lions. Down to 2 lions. Oh, good. Now the lions took over. So now you're just going to get this barrage of almost like bacteria flow between the components. And that'll just go on forever. If you toned it down so that the scene didn't have those cute little pictures and just had 3 colors, then you can perceive the patterns a little better. GameSod was made for the iPhone, which is a cool device because it has accelerometers, and these days it has gyroscopes on it, even the iPad. So some of these programs don't work unless they're on an iPad. This particular one is just a marble that is controlled by accelerometers. I took the game with the drawing and I connected it to like a fish engine so that the fish would kind of get controlled. So this kind of reminded me of kind of like an early fishing trap that natives would have had, where they just kind of route fish into a specific place and where the fish think that they're flowing, but then it ends up just being a hollow cage. This particular one is just a bunch of eye candy. Crisp uses of animations can create kind of like a pull drop. But if you got rid of the pictures, it'd just be a bunch of white squares. This one shows a little bit of a dynamics of those things just want to fall. Like inherently their rule is just go to the floor, and then the things that are rising once they tag those things, and it gives them a little bit of a flicker of launch. So you can create a system where just two powers are converging, and if they're equally balanced, then the system will just kind of stay dynamic. This particular one just shows you how to explode things, and each one of those instances of the line actor just tries to get away as proportionally to how close it is. But if you just go in and change one rule for this guy, saying no longer is he allowed to collide with himself, get rid of that rule, then they just all drop to the ground and they overlap. It's not as dynamic. There's like 17 guys in the exact same space. As far as machines go, linkages are not the easiest thing to create in video game actor design. Usually, all that really matters is the center, the XY center. So you'll have your character that's like 100 pixels by 100 pixels, and the computer only knows the center. So you can go through a decent amount of math to make the computer know where the XY positions are on the two sides of the actor. If you know your rotation phase of the actor and you know the size of the actor, then you just have to do a little bit like forward Cartesian transforms are just like the slightest little bit of trigonometry, which is usually automated, especially in this kid software. But that would be required to do linkages, and you probably even have to do more because linkages are really dynamic. I'll show you one example of an online video of puppets that I've done. But from the ground up, you really, that guy that did AlgoDude, he gets PhD because of it. So it takes a little bit of knowledge to create a physics engine. I'll show you stuff that I've done. Let's see if I can find it. So my intention for this program was to create collages. If you cut apart a picture of a cheetah, so you have like a picture of the thigh and the nose and the ears and the torso, then you could just, as I was saying, take any one of these linkages and then put like a picture of the torso, always scaled to follow the torso. Just push the picture of the foot to always follow the foot. So some pretty cool video games have come out that do that way, where they just do modular collages. But this is just the armature. I mean, any type of armature can exist for this program, and there's parent-child relationships. The funny thing is that the parent of this character is always the one particular click drag point, and you can see that it's like the left arm. It's like that node. It's like the elbow. Now it's the torso. Now it's the head. So this is an early program where I could only, in a computer program, you can only really decide to do one thing at a time. And so I made this program so that from click down to click up, whichever node is closest to that click is the one that I'm controlling. It's a funny little geometry guy. You can see they're all numbered so that the system's kind of coherent. But every time I click up, then the system reorients itself to like a new position. And until I do that, then it's still reacting to the most previous position in like the oldest memory. So to go from here to make a system where all of the points are active, all the points can, every frame kind of like decide on a new center of power. That's a little bit more work. I did one that expanded on that. I think it's just called geometry. So this program is building on pretty much the same algorithm, but instead of any particular anatomical form, it's just the grid itself. So wherever I'm touching, everything is trying to get away. And then there's this other program running on top of these numbers that tries to decode the cross lines of all the numbers, so you can get those kind of hollow points. Sometimes you can make a program, but it doesn't look good, and you really have to just like change the whole visualization concept, and then it extracts a little bit more of the truth of it. Looks like this one finally ended. But for this program, I found out that you can make balance boards. And the way you do it is you constrain so all those planks of wood have to keep their x value. They're not allowed to change their x value, but their y value is still allowed to be reconsidered. Is it? I think slightly. But it's just basically you put a rectangle on a circle, and then you constrain the x so that it can't escape from its position. And then it teeter-totters when other weights you put onto it. To emulate those spring traps, it's kind of kind of hard. You can see how they have like a little bit of a. This is all happening in real time. It's not a video or anything. But the springs, they're a different actor compared to the picture of the mousetrap. They're a completely different actor, and they try wholeheartedly just to cause a little bit of a rotation whenever they're triggered by the ball. But see, that time it just fell. Sometimes actors in games, they just fall through each other. It's kind of an intermittent program, as is most middleware, where you don't really have access to the program, but you just have access to kind of like a shorthand. What I mean by that is that all of these particular components, for me, I'm seeing their constrained attributes and their principles and properties. But the computer, what's it seeing? It's in here looking at these XML files. Probably is going to try to open Xcode or something. But there's a good 20 pack of, yeah, see this stuff? It's like, how useful is this to me? So things can just fall through the cracks when code's being interpreted by different programs. Here's an example of a stamp one where you can just make a modular game. You can imagine if you gave all these actors specific properties, like they generated troops or whatnot, then they would start interacting with each other. And I think a lot of games these days, just like Facebook itself, where they just have they just create like a reservoir, and then people are allowed to populate it. Games like Warcraft, the game doesn't really have any content, and then it's just a facility that allows you to create content. There's this one game called Spore that was a pretty good hit, and then they made this edition pack for it called like Galactus Universe Creator or whatever. And I bought it at Target for like $20 to get home and open it up, and it has no content. All it is an opportunity to like log on to share missions that other people have created for your pleasure. And it just seemed like such a ripoff. Like the game wasn't exactly a game; it was more just a tool to create your own game. This particular game has just got a modular trampoline, so that whenever I create a swipe, it creates a character that helps this character jump up the screen. I hear that special ed kids, when they play this game, they like to create the smash zone. Like, that's the coolest stuff you can do, is create the smash zone. This game's got no retry yet. And these leaves are programmed to like disappear. Encode sensor that fade out. So by the time that they've crossfaded to 0 transparency, they just disappear. So a couple more physics properties. Here's an example of doing the rolling. Like, this guy is just set to have a roll value. Let me show you the parameters on that guy. So it's constrained to be 190 rotational powers, whatever arbitrary that means. And then in physics, it's just got a high density, or it's got a high friction of 100. If I turn this down to 50, and I play the game again, let's see if it can make it up the hill. Just barely. Turn it down to 20. And you see it tried, it had a momentum, and then it fell back. It's just like an algorithm. It's a little less user-friendly because there's play mode and then there's like work mode. Algorithm is pretty cool to allow you to edit things while it's playing so that you can see in real time like the soft attenuations, what it's accomplishing. So in physics you can see some other options, but bounciness used to be called restitution, but they changed it because every time kids looked at it, they're like, what's restitution? And then someone says it's bounciness. So they just gutted it. Artificial intelligence for bad guys, usually it's just go from state to state. So this little cherub goldfish is going from 3 points. And it's got a rule that says if you touch 2, go to 3, if you touch 3, go to 1. But, you know, it's got potential for modular gameplay. Because you can, in real time, change where it's supposed to go. One of the easiest things to do is just to use polar coordinates to make things look at other things. So you can make a whole room of eyeballs that follow you. Yep. Yeah, so check out some of those game salads. Now I want to try something weird. See if I can get that video running. And the way I'm going to do it is by making this computer watch the other computer.